Ready?
Yep.
Steve, ready? You good? All right. I'm going to call the meeting of the Southington Planning and Zoning Commission to order for Tuesday, September 5th, 2023. Dave, can you please call the roll?
Commissioner Tedesco. Commissioner Volpe. Commissioner Clock.
Here.
Commissioner Wolowski.
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Caird.
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Coviello. Alternate Commissioner Coles.
Present.
Alternate Commissioner Ma. Commissioner Santiago.
Here.
Vice Chair Salka.
Here.
Chair Hammersley.
Hammersley's here. I did hear from Christina and Nick. They're not going to be attending tonight, so we will seat Kat and Caleb in their place. With that, we have a quorum. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. All remain standing for a moment of silent reflection, please. All righty, thank you. Has this microphone been tinkered with, or is my hearing just cleared up and I can actually hear it tonight?
I spent hours
Sounds loud.
fixing it, so.
Sounds louder,
Yeah, maybe it's just my voice.
clearly.
Looking for an approval of the minutes from our last meeting on August 23rd, 2023.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Clock with a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item number 7, Commissioner discussion. Any subcommittee reports? Peter?
Just a reminder that we will have our public hearing next time for the regulations subcommittee, so we'll get a look at that. Glenn will be here from Plan Metrics. He'll present, major findings as well as a special emphasis on any state statute changes that took place that we did in there, as well as the cosmetic changes that we had. And, as I said last time, given the amount of turnover that we're going to have on the commission, Commissioner Salka, myself, and Volpe aren't running again. Jen may be on to new things. Kat and Caleb may be in different chairs, and so I think it's that plus we're going to have a new town planner. I think it's very apropos to have a better document and a clearer document going forward. So it's a very exciting time for the commission, and we'll have that public hearing next time.
All right, thanks, Peter.
Yep.
Anyone else? Jen?
Just another announcement about the September 16th Open Space Historical Tour. Sign up online through the Barnes Museum, 10 to noon. Don't want to ruin the surprise, but I may wear a period headpiece.
Oh my
God.
So, yep. This time, we're going to be highlighting the orchards, and don't forget to visit our local orchards and go apple picking and such. It's really so beautiful this time of year. So, September 16th, Open Space Historical Tour.
Excellent.
Fantastic. Looking forward to that. Anyone else? Seeing none. We'll move into item number 8. Before we do that, I'm just going to read the preamble of our meeting. Good evening and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Southern Planning and Zoning Commission. My name is Bob Hammersley. I'm the chair of the commission, and I want to take a few minutes to explain the meeting format. Aside from administrative items, which we just went through, tonight's meeting is comprised of 2 parts, public hearing and a business meeting. During the public hearing, applicant will present the application to the commission in detail, which will allow our members and the public the opportunity to better understand what is being proposed. The commission members may ask questions during the presentation if needed. Then we will ask members of the public who support and oppose the application to speak. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized. Once recognized, come forward to the podium right over here. State your name and address for the record. Please address all comments directly through myself and not to the applicant or other members of the public. Be advised that this is your opportunity to ask questions and make comments on the application, because once a public hearing is closed, no additional testimony from the public or the applicant is permitted. It is also important to maintain order and decorum and mutual respect for everybody in the room, including the people up here, at all times during the meeting. After everyone has had a full opportunity to speak, all questions have been answered, and all information has been received, the commission will decide whether it's appropriate to close the public hearing. We will not consider voting on the application until the business meeting. The second part of the meeting is our business meeting, where we deliberate on applications submitted to the commission and decide how to act on them. The commission may take one of four steps. One, we may approve the application as submitted. Two, we may approve it with certain stipulations, conditions, or modifications. Three, we may table an action for a future meeting. Or four, in some cases, we may deny an application. 4 affirmative votes of the commission are generally required to approve any application. If you have to leave the meeting tonight before a decision has been rendered, please feel free to call the planning department tomorrow afternoon to get the results from tonight's meeting. And with that, we will open up the public hearing for item 8A, Kurt Hoyce, petition to change the zone district boundary from R2025 to an I2, property located at 322 Lazy Lane, zone change number 573. This was tabled in August 23rd, or from our August 23rd meeting. If we can have the applicant come up and talk to us about what they would like to do, please.
Name is Kurt Hollis, a resident of Southington for 56 years, 1 Sawmill Lane, Plantsville, Connecticut. So I've applied for a zone change on the Lazy Lane property, and I'm here to clear up, obviously, some rumors, misleading. I'm going to be honest, this is going into a election year, and I've heard all kind of stuff from all kind of people. So I am asking, that is Kurt J. Hollis, is asking for a zone change. I have partners in other businesses. They are not involved in this. When I hear that this guy and that guy is part of it, I want the people of Southington to know that this is me purchasing the property, not my son, not my brother, has no political intake. The purchase of trying to make this an I-2 property is to a collateral effect of trying to minimize my I-2 boundary line on my current property that I do own with other individuals. There is no site plan that's been developed. There is no plan to do anything at this current time. There is no more land being made in the town of Southington. I've been here for my entire life. I've watched house after house after house after house built. And as a business owner, my taxes continue to rise, 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 rise. Some of you have economic background, some of you don't. The problem in the future will be there won't be enough funds or building to support all the spending that we do in this town. I've come to try to put an I-2 piece together, which is probably the highest tax use in town. Again, don't know if anything would ever be built on this property or not, but if I don't purchase it, I will never own it. And the greatest and best use at this current time for me would be an I-2 use that possibly would need for the other business. But currently that business has no desire to use. There's talk about a permit that I've applied for the CCRR building. That has nothing to do with this property, absolutely nothing. That permit goes through, this property it doesn't matter. That's an entirely different matter with entirely different owners. So I'm here in front of the committee to say, we have 4 choices for this property. Do we make it I-2, which I believe has 3 sides of I-2 touching it, creates the possibility of tax increase to the community. It eliminates homes that we spent $4.5 million once to buy rights. We spent another few million. We buy open space. We spend. I'm getting rid of homes with no expenditure. I understand and I appreciate everyone who's come out. They live there and they have every right to say, we don't want this, but at this point, nobody knows, but then there's no homes. So you have a choice of I-2, homes, subsidized, or the town could buy the rights from me. All I want is the buffer to go away so that my trucks drive safe on my property. So that is the main consideration on this property. I did not approach the sellers, they called me. They said, Kurt, are you interested in this property? Like I said, if a builder buys it and builds houses, it's no longer available. So this piece, if I turn it to I-2, there'll be no homes. If we want more homes in the town, we deny an I-2 thing, and that's up to the committee there. But unequivocally, if it's left residential, because I've applied for I-2, the people out there who build know it's available, have already contacted me, and it will either be residential, cluster, 55 and older, subsidized housing like up up on West Street and Curtis Street. Or if the town wishes, they could buy the rights and work some deal out. I give options. I'm a very fair guy. All of these people, I appreciate them coming. They do live there. I'd love to see this many at a council meeting so that they can understand the council, because your taxes are just as important as where you live, because you spend. But if there's any questions, like I say, there is no site plan. There has been no site plan made. There is no, I've asked, people have said there's a curved road, there's a U-shaped road, this guy, that guy. None of that's correct. I applied, it's me, it's none of my partners, it's future. There is no more land being built in Southington.
Okay, Kurt, is that it?
Yeah,
Open it
yeah.
up for questions? Any members of the commission have any questions of the applicant here? Peter?
So, Mr. Howell, so just to be clear.
Yeah.
So tonight, procedurally,
Yeah.
is solely about should we change the map? Regardless. So tonight, procedure-wise of how a zone change goes,
Yep.
is should we change the map, thereby changing the rules? It's never about, on the first meeting, what goes on the map. That's a second meeting anyway. So whether you had a site plan or an idea for the property or not, we wouldn't be discussing that tonight anyway.
I got you. I just wanted to clear that up because there's been many calls about it. Just
Right.
wanted to clear that up.
So this tonight is, so procedure-wise, is should we change the map and thereby change the rules of the property? Because if the map changes, that goes with the property, not who owns it. Who owns it is incidental, because an owner could go win Powerball and all of a sudden say, hey, I don't care, I want something else, if we have a map change, and whoever wants to put something there could put something there. Okay, that's procedurally how it
Yep.
goes. So whenever we get a zone change request, and anybody can request a zone change request, we like to say, is the zone wrong now? Meaning, does it no longer fit? We get it a lot with, business and industrial, things kind of come over, so it kind of makes sense. And then the other thing is it, if we make a zone change, is it better this way than the way it was? Two ways to view things. Because the use is incidental, because once you change it, if someone is complying with regulations, we have to say yes regardless.
Yep.
Legally.
Yep.
It's not subjective. We have no jurisdiction over that. You're within regulations, we got to say yes to it. So tonight, about should we change the map is kind of important. So would you say currently the map is wrong? I don't think you're saying that.
The map is questionable. You have I-2 all around it. Lazy Lane has the stigma of the Superfund site. You could look at it two ways as a developer. I'd say it's, as far as a developer, business person, long-term planner, because just so that everyone knows my qualifications, I master's degree from the University of Michigan in planning. So I understand the concept of the planning. And I'll be honest, I sit here in front of you to say, if you decided today, yes or no, without another meeting or having something where we all could sit down and talk and go over things, that is there a better use or better plan for this piece of property because these residents are concerned, that would be my action. But I would say that we need more industrial property for the town. So is there enough for the town? So you have to choose an area, and is this a good area for an industrial use? Yes.
Okay. So you'd say probably the second thing, the town would be better served in this area if it was I-2 than residential. It's kind of what you're kind of saying.
So I hate to regret to say that individuals nearby get impacted, but the whole of the community wins.
Gotcha. So as looking at the site, though, it's an odd configuration, meaning a lot of times you get straight lines and this and that toward it, but the way the property is, you have extensions into residential on either side, whereby it's almost as if that, I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I want to say 6-ish lots or so, suddenly become an island of residential in a sea of I-2. So I don't know if we would zone it that way. When you look at it, say, should we change it? I don't know if necessarily how the property goes, we would necessarily do it that way. How would you respond to that? Because I could see like you have extensions on one side and in the middle and like that.
So obviously you grab a map, we sit in a room and you look at the piece and you go, can part of this be changed to I-2? And does that make sense? Does part of it not? I will say that I put my wallet where my mouth is. I bought the Curtis Street property. I've met with a bunch of people, those people who didn't like me on the Curtis Street property, not that I was making the noise, I bought their homes. So this may be something where those 6 homes get bought. They don't have to leave or not leave, that's their decision. I'm just saying, that's a possibility that in the future, if a development goes and it makes sense, do you approach them and give them market value? That's their decision. I never want anyone to have to leave their home on my behalf, but I've offered that on Curtis Street, and you can check the records. I've purchased those who want. So there is that option that maybe those people come forward and say, if we change the zone, Kurt, would you buy? Or I don't have that answer now. This is just something to get the talk started. We applied for I-2. There's all kind of fake rumors going on and stuff like that. So it's to get talk, to listen to the public and see what they like and don't like, understand that it may impact them and how can we change where the lines go. It's not a quick decision that can be made here. A plan is a plan, and you have to work together to try to come up with something that's in the best for everybody.
I don't know anything what you mean about rumors, so that is, I
Yeah.
don't even know what you're talking about, so, okay. I'll take your word for it, but I don't even know what you're talking about, so, okay.
That's fine. Again, my phone is open to anyone who wants to call me and ask questions. You know what I mean? I don't hide from anyone.
Okay, thanks, Peter. Steve?
Yeah, to pick up on where Peter was just headed, I mean, you're making a lot of assumptions that we're educated in what you're talking about. You're talking about rumors and innuendo that we know nothing about. So, I mean,
No,
that's the basis of your presentation. So it's a little bit strange to me that instead of giving us the merits of your application, you're talking about the negativity or the buzz that's already around this project. So I think you're kind of working backwards. You're not helping your case by talking about the negative first instead of presenting the merits of your project.
So the issue is that I have to be, and again, I apologize, I assume that individuals contacted some of you folks, and if they didn't, they didn't. I wanted to clear up everything that was out there. I had a newspaper reporter snapping pictures of CCRR, has nothing to do with this thing. Talking to me about questions about this, that, had nothing to do with it. So my apologies. The issue is that I am trying to change the zone, which would allow a collateral effect to CCRR to have a smaller buffer zone between 2 properties. That's a collateral effect, as well as banking an I-2 piece for something in the future. I don't know of a plan in the future. I just want to be clear and up there. There is nothing designed or that. This is a banking matter, and I just wanted to clear up anything that people may have called. Maybe none of you got calls. That's very odd that none of you up there got a call, but maybe that's true because I've received calls from individuals. And I apologize if you haven't, but I just wanted to set the record straight that there were no plan, that this is a future thought process that maybe if it's changed to I-2, it never gets built.
Can I just weigh in here, Kurt, just to
Yes.
clear up any perception that you or anyone else might have? Everything that we do is transparent. Everything that we do is part of the record. If you go on the Southington Town website, you will see every letter that we've gotten. We've probably gotten about a half dozen letters, if I'm remembering correctly. We don't deal with telephone calls or someone saying this or that type of thing. We don't have that ability, and frankly, I don't want it, right? I want everything to be on the record so everyone can see all the information that we have to make a decision is out there. It's not, we don't deal with rumors, we don't deal with this one said, that one said, we don't like the way that you look, or we like the way that that person looks. It doesn't work like that. We're very transparent up here with everything that we do, and have been for at least the 7 years that I've been up
Yeah.
here, and I think that the groups before that did it the same way. So anyways, but.
Well, Mr. Chair,
Well, hold on, Steve, are you all set, or you have the floor?
Yeah, I mean, it's surprising to me that the presentation starts off where you're giving us this negativity to base a decision on it. It's not how I would have chosen to do it, but, you know, it's your presentation, so with that, I'll kind of let you go.
That's fair.
Jen?
So there's 6 residential abutters, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Have you proactively reached out to them and checked in on
So.
what your thoughts are?
So I've received a telephone call from one of them, who's received telephone calls from some of his neighbors, and I've responded to those with answers. I'm going to be honest, I have not knocked on their doors. I wanted to come here in front and explain, because that's where I said, I've had people call me that live in the area as well as one resident that it touches and they've received. So I've responded through the residents who live there. But no, I have not knocked on their doors yet, no.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, Jen? Caleb?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just have a question. So as we're looking at this, I think Commissioner Santiago talked about what could be. I guess my questions are, in the existing structure of R20, R25, on 13 acres, how many houses can we put there?
So you can do, like some of the developments that were built around town by one of the builders, as many as 4 units per acre. So you'd have 13 times 4, which is 52, or you can go subsidized housing and have unlimited. You know what I mean? That's, again, both of those individuals who do those have contacted me. I prefer an I-2 site that produce taxes, being that reduce a tax roll, but that may be not what the board wants and the people of Southington wants. You know what I mean? Something's going to happen on that site. There is the other option that if the town said we don't want anything there and keep it open space, they could go like they have other properties and buy the development rights. But if the development rights aren't bought, one of 3 things will happen. It will be an I-2 site if you choose it. It will be homes or subsidized rental. I imagine, like I said, only people have
Right.
called. So Kurt, if you don't get the I-2, are you interested in doing this or interested in doing that? I'm in
So-
front of you to try to do I-2.
So we're looking at somewhere around 50 houses.
Yeah.
Or, if some other application comes in, it's on its own merit. But as it is right now, we're looking at about 52 houses. However,
Yes.
if we change it to I-2, and we can look in the definition of what I-2 is, but, and like you said, you're right, it's a very high tax revenue, and this board doesn't look at taxes.
Yep, I got you.
We don't look at revenue, we look at the land use itself. So in I-2, we can do a lot of things. We can do storage, outdoor storage, which is kind of like the gold standard for I-2. You can pretty much do whatever you want
Yep.
outside. And so I think that as we're looking at the impact that might have on the surroundings, outdoor storage to those existing houses, and I think you spoke a little bit to that you did have some concerns about those houses there, that
Yes.
you might reach out to those families to see if they wanted to sell to you.
Yes.
And I don't know how, again, that's far down the road. I'm trying to compare how many houses that you can put there to what an I-2 zone would represent. And so we've had I-2 properties that have been, we've seen applications in where they've been poorly managed. Now, you might have the most altruistic ideas on this property possible, but someday you might sell it.
Of course, of course.
And that person who comes in and buys it might not be so helpful to the neighborhood. And so that's one of the things that the decisions that we make last in perpetuity. And so that's something that, as I'm sure my colleagues up here look at this, we really have to weigh that long-term, like you said, we're not making any more land. And so what we got is what we got, and we have to be very cautious on how we use it. It's our only real resource, besides the people that live here. So I think that was, my concern, and I think you answered that, is how many houses that we can put there. And that was my big question. Now, I might want to circle back around, but thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Bob Solka?
Just a couple things. Tying on to what Commissioner Coles just said and what Peter had said, I guess the town of Southington definitely needs I-2. We'd love to have more I-2. We don't. And I guess my concern is right now is the configuration of what I'm looking at is if that was to be expanded, in a southerly direction, if you will, by cutting into all of this residential neighborhood, you're impacting 7 houses, and I think tying on to what Commissioner Coles had said, once we convert it to I-2, all bets are off. You or a follow-on owner can do just about anything in that area, and that would truly impact the current owners of the properties, the 7 abutting owners. So I guess that's my main concern, is that the way this lot is configured, this I-2 zone that you're proposing is configured, it has too much of an impact on the residential, those 7 neighbors that own houses in that area. I guess that's my major concern.
So to respond to that, obviously, 7 people live there. They've decided to live there maybe their entire life, which I understand. That's where a board and our town planner come together and say, is this a possibility? Maybe there's no possibility to make none of it I-2. Maybe there's a possibility to cut part of it to I-2. That's where you have banter back and forth. You sit and you decide and you plan and you look at, can we do part of this and not? Does it make financial sense to you, Kurt, if we did part and not part? That's where a board comes into play that decides this, and a planner comes into play. I'm here to hear what the residents want so that I can maybe make changes, come to you with changes, say that we should only do part. Maybe it is none. That's a decision but until everyone that's here to speak possibly against it, I don't know how they feel. Maybe there's people here to speak for it because they have economic gain to go. I don't have that answer, but the first meeting is to get facts, come together, and work something out possibly, and maybe you don't. You know, I mean, I don't have that. But this is not a meeting where I thought that you guys would say, hey, we're changing this I-2, or hey, we're not. We're going to come back with questions to you, Kurt, maybe have a town hall meeting where people could come, disclose. I don't know what the policies are, where people can weigh in and stuff. We sit down and we hash things out, like a NFL draft, trades and stuff like that. Does this work? Does that work? And at the end of the day, it may not work. We keep it residential. That's something for you, the board, gets to decide, and the people get to weigh in and tell you their thoughts and stuff. I'm only here to give my things, is I want to be upfront that there is no plan currently, but there will be something most likely futuristically.
So, town meeting, this is the town meeting. This is where we make that decision.
Yeah.
This is where we have that discussion. This is where we're going to open it up to members of the public who want to come and testify for or against your proposal. It happens every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We're here. You're welcome to join us. You're welcome to watch us on TV. It's the way we do things.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this question, because you've said it a couple times, is that at this point, you've said that, and I'll paraphrase, that there's no plans to do anything out on that property, which I find a little bit hard to understand. Why would you make a proposal to convert this to I-2 when you don't know what, if anything, you're going to be doing out there? Why would you go through that process?
Well, again, the collateral benefit is the other business I own would reduce that 50-foot buffer that I need between the 2 properties, which increases the size that operation can run at. The second thing is, have I been in talks with some possible development there, but it's a stretch that it would be approved. So I'm going to say most likely there's nothing. You don't always have to develop A, there's a collateral benefit on B, which is possibly my other business. I own a ton of real estate in town under all kind of different LLCs and stuff. Some of them are purchased where they could be subdivided later. There's something on the back end, and the back end here is that another business of mine benefits by expanding a 50-foot buffer by 1,000 feet. That's a ton of property.
Okay. And based on what I'm seeing with the 50-foot buffer zone, that would affect roughly about 32 properties that are currently in that area are 2025.
No, that buffer runs along this piece.
Well, there's a 500-foot radius zone, right? And there's 32 properties that I'm looking at right now that are 2025 right now that would be affected by that.
I don't have that number. You have that number, but the issue is the touching the property is just the piece that's in question.
Okay. Well, it's based on a map that I'm
Yeah.
guessing was
Yeah.
submitted, developed by Cole
Yeah.
and Sons that I'm guessing was submitted as part of your application.
Yeah.
That's on the website. There's 32 properties that are affected by that. You made a comment earlier, and again, I'll paraphrase, that the residents nearby will get affected for the betterment of the entire community. You want to expand upon that for me? What do you mean?
Well, there's 40,000 residents, and we'll just say 1,000 individuals that would be affected. So you have 39,000 individuals in Southington that would have an increased tax base to function on our spending. You know what I mean? For example, new library, you got schools in the future. Any type of development is going to impact somebody some way. There is no way you can do a change in life. Any action has a reaction. So if houses get put there, you got an action of houses, someone's going to be upset with houses. There's no way to do a development and not impact anybody. And I'm here to listen to the impact. So if there's 1,000 individuals, I'll be honest, I feel bad to impact 1,000 individuals, but 39,000 benefit with an increased tax base. You know what I mean? The only way you have expansion is that there is no way to expand anywhere and not have somebody inconvenienced.
Yeah, we hear that.
There's no possible way. It's an impossibility. Someone will be
We
impacted.
live in that world, Kurt.
Yes.
All the people up here live in that world, so we know exactly what you're talking about. Commissioner Wolowski talked about, or just the way that you started off your presentation, right? And that's a personal choice for you. You can start off any way you want to, so. But let me ask you this. What's the positive attributes if we were to move forward with the plan as you presented it? And how much are you willing to compromise on the current layout, whether it's reducing the size of the I-2, the proposed I-2 zone, or creating some buffer between the I-2 zone, the proposed I-2 zone, and the residential area that's around there? So two-part question.
So obviously, whoever we sat down with to look at a map and say, this is what you want, I then do a financial analysis to determine if that's functional or not. You know what I mean? If you want X, Y, Z, I put X, Y, Z on a map. I say, I can only do boom, boom, boom with this property. It financially doesn't make sense to do I-2. I go to residential, one of these other individuals. You know what I mean? I don't know what you want or what the people want. I look at it and it's numbers. I'm a numbers guy. I'm not an English guy. I can run a number in a second. So you tell me what you want. I look at the map and I say, boom, it works or it doesn't work. Until I know what is in your head of what you would like to see, we put it on a piece of paper and then I decide. You know what I mean? You could say that 10% stays residential. Okay, then maybe it works. You say 90%, well, maybe that works, and I just have that buffer that you're allowed to diminish. You know what I mean? It all depends on what and where and what you want, what we can do.
Okay.
I'm open to listen to anything, and maybe it works and maybe it doesn't. But I'm only here to start the presentation. You guys want to make a quick decision, that's up to you guys. My thing is that I want to hear from these people. I want their input to you. I want to sit down with maybe Dave. You stated you had a new planner. Come up with their concepts. You talk to him, and you want to come in a meeting, and we jot something down. Like I say, a public hearing, it's tough to do it with all kind of people, that if your thoughts, his thoughts, and that, we sit down at a table in there and we say, this is maybe what we think would work. Kurt, does it work? I go back and I and we go. But maybe that can't happen. I don't know, but that's how I did it in graduate school. We met with people, we did things, we came back and forth and said, this is the best both sides can do. It's negotiating. It works or doesn't work.
And one of the things that Jen Clark brought up was that we always encourage people to reach out to your neighbors. We don't want to be the arbitrator of neighborhood conflict or dispute. We'd rather have neighbors reach across the fence and say, hey, this is what I'm planning on doing. What do you think about before it comes here? And we've had some pretty good examples of things that have worked out well with that. One that I'll point to is the Live Well facility out in Plantsville, where we had two high-powered law firms come in wanting two different things. We asked them to go talk amongst themselves outside of our presence, and they came back the following 2 weeks later with a plan that both of them could agree on. And now we got a facility that's being state-of-the-art facility that's being developed out there. So, you know, I don't know if we'll make a decision tonight. We're going to listen to what the public has to say. But irregardless, I always will encourage you, in the future, or even maybe on this application, after this meeting, you reach across the fence and say, hey, let's have a conversation, let's have a cup of coffee and talk about what we want to do and how this benefits you, or how I can minimize the negative effects on your property by doing what, and having that conversation. So encourage you to do that, always.
So the issue on that is that the purchase agreement that the individuals wanted because of probate and stuff was quick, that I had to apply to be an I-2 piece of property. And then I apply for an I-2 piece of property to change, and then you hear again, just why I came with the banter from individuals. I wanted to be on the record here today so that people, if I knock on their door, understand the truth and nothing. So if I come on your thing and you think I'm doing X, Y, Z, you're not going to be too open to me. Tomorrow, they've all heard what I have to say, that this story, that story, and this story is not true. What do you think? What do you want? I have no problem knocking on doors over the weekend, but until it's public record, some people don't let you knock on their door too friendly because they already have a set thing in their mind that I'm gonna create something that's not in the works at today.
Yeah, I get it. Peter, did you have something
Yeah,
else?
just to clarify a couple of things, and I'll let my lawyer correct me whenever I say something wrong, so I'm looking at my lawyer over there. So, a planning and zoning commission in Connecticut, the only conversation we could ever have on any public hearing application is at this meeting. Ever. We cannot even engage in a, can I talk to you about this privately? Never. Can't happen. It's against the law. It's called bias and predetermination. We cannot have that conversation, ever. So we can't. Which means we can't have somebody calls us up, says, I can't talk to you, click. After this meeting, if this public hearing is open, we cannot discuss it with anybody, which means we can't engage in any conversation with anybody. Can't, against the law, can't. The only thing that we could ever have on an application is what's presented at a public hearing like this. It's the only thing a planning and zoning commissioner can do. That's it. Evidence presented, that's how it goes. Can't have anything beyond that. Did I say that right?
Alex?
You did, but the only caveat I say is, the applicant is more than welcome to speak with town staff.
Correct.
Directly, and the public, but none of you can be involved in those conversations, because that would be a big no-no, we'd all be in trouble. So the applicant can talk to Dave, the new planner, Jim, myself, but you guys will never be privy to those conversations, because we'd all be in trouble, I'd lose my license.
Correct. So just to be clear about how the process goes, we can't even talk to each other about it. Can't. So just to be clear about what can happen and what can't happen in regards to any application before us. Okay, so just want to be clear that we kind of cover what can happen, what can't. All right?
So can you refer to staff with questions?
Sure.
So if you guys have questions to give, and I don't want to put
We do it in
Dave.
a public hearing.
Okay, I didn't know if you guys discussed
No, we
things.
don't-
Okay.
No, this is it. Like
Okay.
the chairman said, this is when we do that.
Okay. Unclear of that.
Yeah.
I just felt that if there's concerns and stuff, that's what Dave and the new planner are here for, to give their expertise to you folks to make decisions. You know what I mean? I would hope that we're paying him and the planner, that they weigh in on what's going on when you guys make your decisions, because that's what their schooling is.
Yeah, sure.
Mr. Chair.
Hold on, Bob Solka?
I just want to clarify something that, and I think it goes along sort of what Peter was saying, that I think you may have asked the question, I may have misunderstood, but you may have asked the question, what would we like to see, for example? I don't feel comfortable getting into a negotiation of, well, if you take this out and you put that back.
You can't.
You can't do that. And that's why, based on the questions that we ask you, the feedback that we get, you need to take that back, perhaps talk to the town staff, and maybe discern what we're saying and come back with a different plan at some point. But what I don't like to do is get into a negotiation saying, well, if you take that out and you give us a 1,000-foot buffer, that sort of implies that we would approve that if you came back. That's not the case. So you have to hear what we're saying, understand what we're saying, if you perhaps want to talk to the public, talk to the planners, and then perhaps come back. But it's up to you to say, I'm going to withdraw this application and perhaps submit it at a later date, something different. That's okay. Just to clarify that.
Yeah, very good, no, very good.
Thank you.
Steve,
Just really
Alex?
quickly, the only thing that this commission can vote on is what's in front of it.
Right.
So this is the application, this is the only application. I understand the applicant made it very clear, he believes this is a preliminary application, I don't want to misstate.
Yeah.
But this is the application, the only thing that you will be looking at tonight.
So the goal today was to hear what you guys said, what they said, meet with Dave or someone else, and come up with what they feel may pass. So they take your thoughts, your input, their input, and help me put something together that may or may not work, because that's what I think, and I could be wrong, their job as planners to help me submit that you guys may accept.
Mr. Chair?
Steve, go ahead.
Yeah. I think that that's the conversations you need to have with town staff prior to it. This is final, what's here. You need to have those conversations first and find out where the town is on a project like this. You're going, the public hearing is open, you're going to hear from the public. But you don't want us making a decision tonight because it's final.
I think I've stated a few times, I wasn't
But
expecting, because
you-
I've
you-
been to other meetings.
The application in front of us, which
The-
needs to have a decision rendered in some fashion.
Well, they've
So
tabled,
you need to,
they've tabled a bunch of things that I've brought in front of you before. I'm going to be honest, that was my expectation, was to listen to what I had to say, listen to what they had to say. We come back in 2 weeks. If you choose not to, that's fine. You can make your decision on whatever, at the end of the day, that's your decision. But until I know what's in your head, I've come in front of this board years ago with sound projects that have been denied and other projects that weren't as sound that have been accepted. So, like I said, I don't know what goes on a daily basis in each one of your committee's thought process. And the goal was to think, because I didn't expect someone to just say, go, 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 go. I expected to hear stuff from you and make changes, and then maybe ask Dave what he thinks, because obviously that's his job.
what I would add to that was if we were talking about a site plan, maybe, we're talking about a zone change, sir. So you need to be able to have your conversations, and I'm putting words in your mouth. The give and take needs to happen with town staff, not with us. It's a zone change, not a site plan. Negotiations happen in site plans all the time, and we're able to do that. But that's not the animal we're looking at right now.
Again, my expectation is part of this may be accepted and part not, so it would be chopped, not the entire thing.
Okay, any other questions for members of the commission? Caleb?
So, real quick, we did talk a lot about entering things into the record and what comes into public hearing. In the submittals that, I believe it was you, and if it's not you, please correct me, but there's a submittal for CCRR Operation and Management Plan. Was that put in here accidentally, or, I'm confused because that's a separate parcel?
Yes.
And that's part of something different going on. So why is it here?
I can't answer that. I didn't, Steve Judas from Cole submitted the paperwork, so I can't, like I said, that's a totally different entity, totally different piece of property.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I can answer that. That was from a resident, so
Oh,
they had asked
thank
to
you.
include
All
it
right.
into the record, which we did.
I appreciate for that clarification. Thank you.
Anything else from members of the commission? Kurt, anything before we open it up to members of the
No,
public?
no.
All right. So we're going to
No,
open it
thank
up to members of the public. We'll start with people who are in favor of it, then we'll go to
Yep.
people who are opposed to it, and then we'll bring you back up to answer any questions that we might have, and we'll see where we are at that point.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So at this point, we'll open it up to members of the public, and we'll start, as I said, with members out there who might be in favor of the application. So anyone who'd like to testify in favor of the application, please come up to the podium, state your name and address, and let us know what your thoughts are. Or time, do we have anybody? All right. Is there anyone who'd like to testify in opposition to the application? Again, please come up and state your name and your address and let us know what your thoughts are. Why don't we start with the gentleman who's closest with the blue shirt there?
Hi, my name is John Sullivan. I'm a resident of 1 West Main Street. I live in North Andover.
Good evening, my name is Chester Nell, I live at 6 Muir Terrace. First of all, how can you approve a zone change without a site plan? That makes no sense whatsoever. If you, he could put anything on his property that he wants. He could put a Tilcon Tomaso plant on there, he could put anything. And it would affect, like he said, it will affect more than 1,000 people. But it will help 39,000 people? That makes no sense either. Anyways, if you have the maps in front of you. Do you know that right through the middle where this swath is, the high lines go right through there? Are you aware of that? So this is not 13 acres in total. He would not be able to separate these two sites, will he?
They can't answer questions on your
Okay, well,
questions, but
anyways,
they can
there
address
is-
them later in the meeting.
Their high lines goes right through the center of this property, so actually, you can't do anything in the high lines. It separates both sides. You know, that I know is a fact, working for Eversource. Secondly, this is gonna affect every person in here, noise-wise. It's gonna affect our traffic flow. There could be massive trucks going through here. We have no idea what he wants to do with it. So until he really does submit a site plan, this is really, it doesn't make any sense. So I'm sorry, but I'm opposed to this.
Okay, thanks, Chester, appreciate you coming out. Is there anyone else? Come on up. Either. Man, why don't you come up and sit in the seat back there, just so you're ready when she's done, okay? Yeah. Just make it, yeah.
My name is Ellen Slipsky on 80 Milcon Drive. And I sent a letter in opposition to planning and zoning and the commission members for changing the zoning for 322 Lazy Lane, along with 67 signatures from the neighborhood. And this zone change, if it's approved, would be detrimental to our safety and health if they put an industrial zone in there. I'm not sure if you're aware, but the CCRR has probably outgrown their facility, I'm assuming, and probably wants to use this property to expand, because they have a permit with the state of Connecticut right now, which I was the one that sent in the application, because I'm not sure if there's any rules or regulations that a developer or an agent has to provide planning and zoning a permit, because when the original CCRR was approved, there was some issues as far as the approval process. There was no public hearing. And to me, that's a special use if you're going to process recyclables. And the application at that time, they did not talk about the putrescible material, the municipal solid waste, which is really, really a health hazard. Also, there would be an issue with the safety and health, the noise, the odor and dust and property values, quality of life, and increased traffic. This facility is open to the public, not just Southington. Besides central Connecticut right now and the western portions of Hartford County, they plan to extend the eastern part of Litchfield County, western portion of Hartford County, the northern New Haven County, and northwestern Middletown, which is going to be, the traffic is going to be horrendous. Originally, there was a verbal agreement about traffic to go out to Queen Street. It was a verbal agreement by the commission, and basic statement was made that if they didn't follow it, that the commission would go visit them. It has not been enforced, and we still have the traffic going back and forth, which is unsafe. Those roads, Lazy Lane and Curtis Street, are narrow. There's no sidewalks. There's buses. And it's not fair to us that we have to deal with this traffic. They are there for a profit. And basically, they're not concerned about the residents. And it's, to me, it's the commission's responsibility to look at our safety and health and look and provide current traffic and future traffic. And if that's the case, if they do use that land to expand their business, right now they're processing 125 tons a day for that putrescible material waste. And I'm not sure if you know what that is, but it's basically organic matter that's capable of being decomposed by microorganisms so as to cause offensive odor, gases, or other offensive conditions and health risks. Some examples are waste included garbage, offal, which is butchered animal parts, dead animals, general household waste, and commercial waste. And if there's improper disposal of these municipal solid waste, it can lead to adverse health outcomes through water, soil, and air contamination. The putrescible waste can attract rats, flies, and other vermin due to the strong odors produced by the organic matter. And my understanding is the neighbors do have rats. So if they expand to a different area on the I-2, if he wants to purchase that land for that purpose, that's going to be detrimental. And also, it's going to hurt our property values very, very much. Also, there is an issue that about unregulated material based on the past history of the applicant of this is a really big concern for us. The noise and dust, they're adding more machines, purchasing equipment, systems for processing and recycling. They're adding a baler, 3 bucket loaders, a rock crusher shredder, which originally there was, before HQ came in, there was a carpenter construction company that was denied, the commission denied it because of the safety and health, the noise, and they told and also inadequate infrastructure for truck traffic. So that was denied by the commission back then, but they're currently doing that now. They're also going to put in a vibrator screener, 2 material handlers, a recycling machine for commercial and demolition waste, glass processor, a plastic processor, 3 roll-off trucks, 10 to 50 yards, and a 1 walking floor trailer. They're also increasing their cubic yard storage for the putrescible and non-putrescible solid waste. They were approved originally for recycling the non-hazardous materials, mattresses, so forth and so on, and tree stuff and and that type of material. But now the permit is for 125 to 600 tons a day of that municipal waste, which we don't want. I mean, why put a I-2 in there if it's going to impact the residents' health and safety? I'd like to stress that the commission has an obligation to residents to safeguard our public health and safety, provide for water, sewage, drainage, and flood protection, and provide for our current and future traffic needs. As far as there was no public hearing, I want to talk about that when the original CCRR was put in place. The agent said that he was working with one neighbor through the whole project, and we didn't need a public hearing, and the commission accepted that. Why would one neighbor be a public hearing when we didn't know what was going on? We had no idea. The only way we knew is when I saw an article in the Hartford Courant about them going through this recycling. That's how we found out. There was no approval without verification of the stipulation or traffic route for the subdivision. And the agent said the traffic can't be enforced. There was a confusion about the number of trips. One meeting, they said it was 20 to 30 trips. It was under the threshold. The second meeting, they said that it was 141. But that was just dropped. They were supposed to verify that, but they didn't. They approved it. So to me, that was neglect, as far as I'm concerned. I have some questions that can be answered hopefully later on. Does the owner have an obligation to submit a permit documentation to planning and zoning when the permit was submitted to the state for approval? Because CCRR was approved. Then a permit was sent to the state to process their recyclable materials. That was in January 2020. And then a updated application was submitted in '22. And I've been dealing with the state and asking when it's going to be approved, because it's going to go out on the website, and they have 30 days, the residents have 30 days to make their comments to deny the application. They said the traffic, basically the 141, couldn't be enforced, but the owner can enforce that. They have a website, they have contracts with the vendors, so they can tell them that traffic should be going out to Queen Street, but that didn't happen. I've been to the police station. I have a meeting to go to them to discuss this traffic because we can't deal with this. I mean, our health is in jeopardy. So I oppose, and neighbors, 67 neighbors so far have opposed having that changed to an industrial area because you don't know what's going to be done there. Once you approve it, they can do what they want. I have concerns at 136 Curtis Street. You go down the trail, they have, maybe it's illegal, I have no idea. They have a 5-6 foot wood chips all around the back of the property. So in the summer, in the winter, you see it. Today you can't, you have to look for it. But it's there, and I sent a video to the planning and zoning about that. So I'm not sure if that is. So we can't really trust anything as far as I'm concerned, so. And as far as the application, I think we got to look at the application because you put down a reason, and the reason, if anybody didn't know Kurt, they wouldn't know what's going on. They want to change the zone. The public needs to know. There's got to be some transparency. So that's basically what I want to say. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Ellen. Thanks for coming out tonight.
You're welcome.
Appreciate your thoughts as always. Yeah, come on up.
Hello, Michelle Allaire, 228 Lazy Lane. Now, does Kurt currently own the property, or anybody can go and look to change I-2 on any land? Is my question. So, because I looked on the books today, and it's not owned by Kurt, it's owned by Yolanda Yorsky. So, I don't quite understand how come he's looking to change it to I-2 when he doesn't even own the land, is one question. That's something I think is quite odd. The second thing is, I abut I-2 property. Where my house is, downward is I-2. And I can tell you, it's not a very happy situation to have to abut I-2. I abut storage units, and I have taken the town's advice and tried to handle situations on my own. And I have in front of me in the I-2, they're supposed to be building medical units, and they're not building them. Instead, they're storing rock from his other progressive development business, and they bring truckloads of big boulders and everything that they're storing there, and it just happens over and over, and it's been years and years, and things like that go on. And right now, Kurt's looking to switch this over to I-2, and I noticed that would make great entry and exit ways on those two aisleways here in the red. So he would have exits and entry ramps, exit and entryways for CCRR if he wanted to, because they currently only have one entry and exit way over on Triano Drive. So now they could come in and out from here if they wanted to, possibly, and that would not be a good idea for residents. Right now, they go up and down Lazy Lane quite often, and it's horrendous when they come up the road, when they have those big, I forgot what they're called, but the things they rent out to people for people to throw their junk into. The minute they hit the frost heaves on our street. It's bing, bang, boom, and it's terrible. And I've called Annette from, I think her name is Annette, from our chief financial officer to see if I beg her to fix our road, to fix that frost heave. And nope, no money in the budget this year, no money in the budget last year. So every year we have to listen to it. And you can tell when they're coming up the street, here they come. And, you know, I've lived 300 yards off the street, and I can hear it. I can hear them coming up the road, and it's just terrible. And I've called HQ Dumpster, I've spoken to Jack on numerous occasions, you know, can you guys do something to keep those things, you know, locked down, so when you hit that bump, you know, you can't make the noise? Oh, Michelle, there's nothing we can do about it. And, you know, we put covers over the tops of our trash things, so when we come up the road, if they're full, trash won't come off the road. You know, you see them zooming by, not doing 25 miles an hour, and the trash is blowing everywhere. You know, they're good neighbors, good neighbors. We really appreciate having them. You know, if they can come a little closer to us and get this put as I-2, do you think we'd be happy? I don't think so. I really do not wish to have this approved. I think they would use that as entry and exit ways. Kurt says he has no plans for it right now. I really think that that is not the case. He seems to try to sound sincere. I don't really think that's the case. Why would anybody go through all this effort just to have it be I-2? It makes no sense at all, especially when you don't even own the property. They were nice when they first moved in. They really were. I went to every single one of their meetings. I got coffee, I got donuts. I was the only one at that meeting. They made me feel special. Now I just feel like I got duped. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for coming out. Anyone else would like to testify? Go ahead, sir.
Evening. My name is David Giroux. I live on Melcon Drive. I guess I just want to state for the record everything I've heard here, that, yes, the commission has to make a decision on to change this zoning, and I look at, no one knows what's going to happen down the line, but if you change this to the I-2, then all bets are off. It could be anything, and then it's a whole different. So you really got to take a look at the nature of the road, the area. Yeah, there's the 7, 8 houses that directly abut it. They're definitely going to get affected, but the whole area, our Melcon Drive gets affected, the traffic, the noise, as she talked about. Lazy Lane's not the place to put an industrial zone. Yeah, the lower part, SRS is good, they go out through Queen Street and you can minimize it, but as soon as you make this I-2, all right, what's the next? Now that we buy the houses in front of it, make that industrial? Now we go a little bit further, there's other places in town that can be industrial. You know, places where people maybe don't have houses and so forth, and I know that the town's trying to get tax revenue, but you can do it responsibly. I know it's not your charter to do that, but think about what could happen. This isn't the place to make it industrial. You know, obviously, as the other gentleman said, you can't, 13 acres, numbers of houses, and so on and so forth. Well, it's residential. If they want to put houses there, whatever, put it there. You know, but to change it to industrial, and what type? Storage units? Yeah, low key. Big trucks, again, you got a walking trail that's going to get expanded. Traffic there, no sidewalks, truck traffic, you know, all this, what it could be this is not the area for it. You know, there's other places in town. So I just want to say I'm opposed to it and just wanted to give my thoughts.
Thanks for coming out. Anyone else would like to testify? Come on up.
Good evening. So I'm Yadira Gonzalez at 384 Lazy Lane. And Mr. Kurt here stated that he's a numbers guy, and he threw out numbers continuously through his conversation. He's bought this property, he's bought that property. I'm a risk woman, and I have to ask, what is the risk that you are taking in approving this plan? You are risking neighbor safety. You are risking children who are unsafe catching the bus. On the corner of Lazy Lane and Melcon, there are now 5 or 6 new students for the first time since I've been there. My daughter's been the only one on the corner thus far. So it's so nice to see. I've had an opportunity to meet these neighbors. They're wonderful people. They care about each other. They care about what happens in our town, in our streets, and to our families. How much are you willing to risk for his dollars, his business's dollars, his multiple businesses? Well, we may not have tons of businesses, but we have worked hard for the properties that we have. We pay a significant amount of tax dollars, including the 4.2% that was just increased just this year, as most of us know, right? The taxes just continue to go up, and we do it because we love our homes. We moved here, whether it was 30 years ago or 5 years ago, we moved here because this is a town we wanted to raise our families in. And I do believe that there are other sites that can be used. And the dollars do not outweigh the risk if this is approved. I feel like we are here once, twice, maybe 3 times a year with different applications and making the same statements. Our children are not safe anymore. We can't walk our pets. We can't have healthy walks because of the speeding, because of these dump trucks. I work from home. I have to work with closed windows because all I hear is these dump trucks. Day in and day out from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. The only break I get is on a Sunday where I can actually sit on my patio and enjoy some family time. That is not worth the risk of losing these wonderful residents, these tax-paying residents for one business. If you have multiple millions of dollars to spend on property, then spend them somewhere else and stop harassing, because at this point, this is how it feels, like it is harassing and uprooting our lives. Our tax dollars should matter, and our livelihood and our safety should matter. Thank you.
Thanks for coming out tonight. Anyone else? Victoria? Oh.
Hi.
Put you in the on-deck circle. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Mary Ann Prange. I used to be Mary Ann Arzila. I have lived at Lazy Land. My dad built the house in 1960. I love the area. I've always loved it. We've gone through the Sullivan thing down the street with all the contamination and all that. And then with the businesses on Triano Drive, with our SRS. But like the previous people have said, they do go back down the street. They are very courteous. They do not speed up and down the street. I see the garbage trucks going up and down. I can't even take my granddaughter for a walk because, I live at 318, so I'm on the top of a hill. So it's not like I'm down in down in the street down there. There's just so much that we thought about. I did get the 67 names. I did go up and down the street and talk to all the neighbors, and it was very nice to talk to neighbors that I hadn't talked to since I was a kid. And they were all on the same page that we're on, that we do not want that area to be anything but residential. We moved there, we love the area, there's new people moving in, and I know we're having more developments at the end of Lazy Lane and Curtis Street. We're gonna have more neighbors down on the end of Curtis Street. There's gonna be people all over the place. Where are these people gonna go for a walk? Now we're worried about them going to the trail, because what kind of traffic is gonna go through that trail? You're gonna really have to put a stop sign or a stop light for the people to walk across, because the trucks will come down and, it will be very dangerous. I was also wondering how they're going to put some drainage in for that new trail, with all this business. I heard someone talk about the wood chips and things. Well, is that going to affect it? Are you going to make an area that's going to be contaminated, just like Sullivan's, that you can't even go for a walk? That's something to really think about, And like I said, with the dangers of the traffic going up and down, I was out there the other day, and I couldn't even hear a fire engine go by. So it's like, how are people going to be able to know if there's an ambulance, a police car? Because we do have a lot of police cars going up and down the street. We do have a sign at the end of the street on Queen and Lazy Lane that says no through trucks. And that was put in, I think, when SRS was there, so nobody else would go up that way. The speed limit is 25 miles an hour. These trucks are going 50 miles an hour. It really is not safe. I see people walking their dogs. I see people running. I mean, if you have a jogger running down the street and all of a sudden a truck comes and doesn't see them, there's going to be disasters. There's going to be a lot of medical issues that the town will have to be responsible for if this is approved. I don't know, there's more that I could say. I mean, I also didn't like the idea of, you know, the kids, because there are more kids coming on the street and waiting at the stop, you know, for the buses and things like that. And like I said, even going for walks. So, and if they were playing in the yards and a ball goes across the road and a truck decides to zip by, you're going to lose a child. So that's something that I hope you all will think about. Thank you.
Thanks for coming out, Marion, appreciate it.
Good evening, everybody. Vicki Triano, 33 Bellevue Avenue. I'm just grateful for your listening time as everybody's been coming up, and even for Mr. Hollis coming up and giving information. I just have, I want to be very focused on my remarks tonight, and that's the quality of life of our residential neighborhoods. You know, when we lose that quality of life, when we lose our neighborhoods, we lose the soul of our community, the interaction, the concern for one another, and what have you. As I heard more and more about the infringement upon residential areas from this plan, I have very deep concerns about that. So I am feeling more and more that we need to be proactive. I understand owning of the property and what have you, but I think it's so important in this particular situation that we maintain our neighborhoods and that we don't allow the infringement in those neighborhoods. We understand that Mr. Hollis is a very successful businessman. And of course, he's looking to expand. But my concern is this particular piece of property. And so I thank you for your time. Thank you.
As always, good to see you, Victoria. Thanks for coming out. Anyone else who'd like to testify, come on up. I got a couple of them. If you want to get in the on-deck circle, by all means, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Val Diocik. I live on 305 Lazy Lane, and I just quick comment, something to point out. It's about the numbers. The only thing that I heard about justification for this rezoning application is the tax revenues. And if this approval were to go through, then it's bound to have a negative impact on the property valuations. And you, Mr. Chairman, yourself named the number of at least 32 properties. So on the one hand, we're looking at the increased tax revenues for town. But on the flip side, we're going to have 32 properties that will be negatively impacted in terms of valuations, which means reduced tax revenues from those properties. So I kind of fail to see the justification of going through with the approval. So I'm opposed. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir?
My name's Scott Prey. I live at 255 Lazy Lane, which is one of the 6 houses that abut right up next to that property. I'm not going to go on that to complain about the garbage trucks or anything like that. My only question would be as to why you would want to change it to an I-2 and put yourself in a higher tax bracket if you're not going to do something with it to make that money back. You wouldn't change the zoning law in order to pay more in house taxes. So why would Mr. Hollis do that? But, I mean, obviously I'm against the proposal that's here because I abut right to it on the property line. I mean, I know he can put nothing underneath the high line because I deal with that every year with Eversource. That's just that. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate you coming out. Anyone else who'd like to testify in opposition? Coming up?
Steve Franco, 225 Lazy Lane. Just here to oppose it. That's really it. Only thing my main concern is, I'm just worried about my property value going down. That's really it. So, thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Okay, anyone coming up?
How you doing? Keith Ciccarello, 332 Lazy Lane. I'm one of the abutting properties across the street. I've been there for about 16 years. Like some of the board members mentioned, I'm just against the zone change because you're opening up a slippery slope with no plans, so who knows what could actually go there in the future. And with no real plan, we're not sure what's going to happen. I also was concerned about, on the property map, there's a right-of-way along the west side of that property that goes all the way back, and it comes out in between, I think it's, let me see, I think it was 323 Lazy Lane. I'm not sure who owns that right-of-way, but if that has anything to do with this, are they gonna like have industrial traffic coming out in between two houses right in that middle of the neighborhood, right at the top of the hill there? That's one of my concerns, that and the increased industrial traffic going up and down the road. I was out, my kids take the bus right in front of our house, and I was out for 5 minutes this morning, and there was we all know cars speed up and down that street, but there's also truck traffic speeding up and down that street. And sometimes there's a cop parked there, and they do their job, and it slows down for a little bit, but as soon as the cops aren't there, it just picks right back up. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Keith. Anyone else would like to testify in opposition to the application? Kurt? So this is where you get to come up and respond to what you just heard. And let me just sort of frame what, I'm showing 11 people testified in opposition. We had nobody who testified in support of your application. I think the theme that ran amongst those dozen people were property values, traffic, health and safety. So if you want to take a shot at addressing those concerns, please.
I can answer some of the questions so that some of the individuals have some of their questions that they asked you. Michelle asked, how can I ask for a zone change when I don't own it? Michelle, I have an option to buy, so I come in front of the board trying to get a zone change, and if I get a zone change, I then have the option to buy the property. So that's the process on how that gets taken care of. One individual said, again, I stated that my partners in CCRR are not part of this purchase. So what you've heard is CCRR and HQ Dumpster complaints, but there was a comment that there were no meetings. As Michelle stated, that there were meetings posted in the paper, that we invited the town council people, the chairman, we invited the planners, we invited the town manager, we invited everybody. There was a posting in the paper that was 2 times. Michelle came once, and I cannot help that other individuals did not come. So there were definitely meetings when we started our business on Triano Drive, and all the officials that the state of Connecticut insists that we contact were met with. Letters went out, and a newspaper article. So that's the extent of, again, has nothing to do with this piece of property, but one of the comments to the board about CCRR. Another thing about traffic, trucks, and again, I understand all 11 individuals. I didn't come here thinking that I was going to be handed bouquets of roses to get an I-2 changed. I'm a long-term thought processor, and I understand expansion of a town, and it hurts somebody, and I apologize for all that. The issue is I'm 100% do not know what I would do with it. The main goal, and again, Dave can't speak, but we've gone back and forth about the 50-foot buffer, is the instant benefit of purchasing this piece of property. It allows that business that's doing there to operate in a better manner. Truck traffic. There was an operation put in by the town police that they monitored the speed of these trucks. I'm just trying to put things on the record. None of our trucks ever exceeded a speed limit to receive a ticket, while cars and stuff did. I did reach out to, well, we had a meeting with a town council person, and I said I would pay, or please put up those flashing lights signs. And again, I'll go on record, I'll pay for the flashing light sign, even though none of my trucks, none of my employees, anything to do with me and any of my businesses ever received a speeding ticket on Lazy Lane when they did that a few days of police activity. All of those reports could be got from the police chief, Mr. Daly. So as far as the steps taken with traffic and speed and stuff, I take it serious. Every day I get with somebody if I feel they're even close to going over the speed limit. But the police reports show there were no tickets, there were no violations, but there were to other people. I did reach out to 2 people on the strike committee. There was a $250,000 grant that was available to apply from the state to say we could apply this from the state and put sidewalks around Lazy Lane. Again, this goes through or not goes through, I still am compassionate about people saying there's no safety on Lazy Lane with sidewalks. Again, nobody cuts the grass near the sidewalk, so it hangs over. So this is a totally different matter, but I said to the strike committee, apply for the $250,000 from the state to say that you're going to put in sidewalks because you've allowed an I-2 development to go in, and the sidewalks go in and then people could be safe. So many steps have been taken, and I take offense when people say I don't care. I understand this will affect people. The issue is, at the current state, the business does not need this property. I do not know what 20 years from now will be when I'm gone and my kids take over. I don't have that crystal ball. But if it's not bought and it's not changed, it will never be there if needed. So I respect you folks. If you sit there and you vote on this tonight and you deny it, these people have every right to be against it. My issue is that long-term plan, you need capital to survive a community. We don't want to end up spending ourselves and raising taxes. I will be upfront that it saddened me to death that a few of my residents, neighbors, had to move because they can no longer afford to live and pay the taxes in Southington. The history of me is I was born in the house I currently live in. I never moved. I bought it from my parents, and my neighbors were my parents also. It got to the point where they couldn't afford their taxes because of the value of the homes. If we don't, again, as a planning thing, this is what I come as a business person saying, that we went up 4.5%, we're going to go up again. So this may not be an applicable reason for you guys to accept an I-2 change, but it's reality that we are spending a lot of money in this town, and we are forcing the individuals that built the town to leave because they could no longer afford on their pensions and their Social Security. So for years, I maintained their properties for free, but it just got too expensive. So you think 4.5 this year, I expect a 6% next year. So again, that's not a true reason. These people have their rights. I respect all their rights. I have no issues with someone against me trying to do it. All I'm trying to do is secure something for the future of a business that currently sits there, and to understand that the concept of tax revenue is important to maintain a community of our quality. So if there's any other questions from you folks, like I said, I'm not here to rebut or bash, but I gladly have sat down with individuals and tried my best. A business is a business, and it grows and it moves, and we do everything in our power to care about the people of this town. I have not invested or spent or donated the money I have because I don't care about people. I take offense that I don't care. You're always welcome. You're always welcome at my place. You're always welcome to call me. You can ask any of the residents who have dealt with me on Curtis Street. I listen. I do everything in my power within reason to care about the residents that I may impact. But I'll gladly listen to anything you guys say. It's your choice at the end of the day if you decide to change this to I-2 or not. You want to refer to Dave and postpone this. I'm a fair guy. Whatever you folks get to decide. But understand that there is a tax revenue issue long-term in this town.
So Kurt, you mentioned a couple of, first of all, I'm going to say, just on a personal level, that I don't believe that you don't care. I don't think anyone here said that you don't care. I don't think anyone insinuated that you don't care. We have tried as a commission to put sidewalks up on Lazy Lane and been thwarted by developers who say that they don't have to do it, it costs them too much money, they're not going to do it. To which I respond, just because you don't have to do it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. But they do what they're going to do, and we're obligated to live by the regulations and state law and case law of what we can and cannot affect. And I've worked with you as, you know, on the strike committee, so I can attest, as I think Victoria probably could attest, to your desire to make our community a little bit better. Whether this fits into that in our vision or not is something that we'll see somewhere down the line, I think. But you mentioned a couple times that one of the reasons why you wanted to convert this over to I-2 is to minimize or relieve the 50-foot buffer that's required when industrial property abuts residential property. You've had, I don't know if it was you, but your organization, your business has had applications in front of this commission in the not-so-distant past to reduce that buffer, and those have not been approved here. So this is another way of being able to overcome that, I would suspect. Is that an accurate statement, or am I misunderstanding?
That's a collateral benefit to this, yes.
So the fact that people bring up the CCRR permit, switching this over to an I-2 zone make it more palatable, easier to operate under that permit with what the intent of the permit is to perform?
So currently, there's been about a year and a half working with the DEP for the permit increase to raise the tonnages, and with that comes a compactor, which again, tax revenue. Nothing goes up there at the current state. It's trash comes in, it goes into a compactor as rapidly as possible. It's wrapped up into, we'll say, massive bags, loaded on a flatbed, and heads out to Queen Street, and away it goes. So the increase in traffic will be up Queen Street, from Queen Street up, and then quickly leaving, because that's the direction that those bags go. So there'll be increased, I'm not going to lie, there'd be increased traffic from Triano Drive to Queen Street, with traffic in and traffic out that direction. There have been people that say, no tractor trailers go down the side roads and stuff. They don't go up Lazy Lane. All of our tractor trailers take a left, just like SRS, and down and away. So with the new permit comes a compactor, which then reduces the number of trucks that will leave, because you can fit more weight onto flatbed trucks than you can into tippers or walking floors. So there's increased tonnage, but decrease because of how you can package the stuff. So instead of 50-yard cans, you got 24 tons on a flatbed instead of 6 tons in a roll-off can. So there's a trade-off, you know what I mean? So yes, increased tonnage, but that doesn't necessarily mean a bunch of more traffic. Futuristically, they're 100% right. What happens if it's changed to I-2? I don't have that answer. I'm not going to be here forever. That may be something my children decide. I can't answer. But if it's not I-2, there's no potential growth to that, and that's a planning decision and an economic decision. And again, they have every right. Some of them are personal friends who came here and said they argue against it. I hold no grudges, no grudges. They own a home. They have every right to live in that thing. My issue is that I believe long-term that there's a tax issue, and here's a piece of property that's surrounded 3 sides by I-2 that allows the best possible change. There are no other places scattered around town that you can just pick out and say, let's change I-2. One, it's illegal. You can't have spot zoning. This allows the configuration and the change in an area near I-2, surrounded by I-2. So there was another comment that was made, who owns that right-of-way? I own that right-of-way. So that is I-2 that surrounds the other side of that property. So 3 sides of this property are owned two, one SRS and two sides that I'm a partner in. So is it perfect to change this? Absolutely not. These people live there. But is it the best piece in this town that could be changed to I-2? Yes. And that's where you guys sit. Do you decide that you want some more I-2 in this town, or do you decide that you don't want any more I-2? There is no better piece that fits a change of I-2. And at the end of the day, you're going to make the stand. I-2 is done, what's here is here, or we're going to accept this piece, which is the best app. I've looked, I've studied, I've met with our economic developer hundreds of times. This is the piece that fits best. And I'm not saying it's perfect. There is no perfect change, because somebody's going to get affected. But at the end of the day, it's the best piece in town.
Okay. Any other questions of the applicant from members of the commission? Anything else, Kurt, before we
No,
we move on?
No, thank you. I thank you for your time.
What I want to ask, just for a second, because we're going to talk about whether we close the public hearing, which has been stated several times tonight, that once a public hearing is closed, we take no more testimony, and we base our decision on what we're going to do. There was a suggestion made tonight by Commissioner Clark that I think most of us support. As I said, going out and reaching over the fences, talking to your neighbors is always a good thing. If you're inclined to do that over the next 2 weeks, we can keep this public hearing open. If you think that it's not going to benefit or change anything, then that's fine too, and we'll take that into consideration when I ask the other 6 members up here whether we want to keep this public hearing open. But if you could just respond to that.
Yeah, I have no problem meeting and people, if they're open to me, I don't need hostileness. If someone wants to ask questions, I'm an open door policy. I don't tell a lie. There's no reason.
How they receive you is their prerogative, and likewise, right? So.
Yeah, I'm open to talk to any of them and answer any of their questions.
Okay. So based on the applicant's response, I'm going to suggest we keep this public hearing open. And we'll hopefully finish this up 2 weeks from now, and we'll see where it goes. But I would, again, encourage you to go out and talk to your neighbors and see if there's something that, you all can compromise on and to everyone's mutual benefit. And if there isn't, there isn't. I don't know, but I always like to give it that last chance before we make a decision and possibly close the door on anything in the future. So I hope you take us up on that.
Yeah, no, like I said, I'm open. Telephone numbers available, anybody, anytime.
Well, the onus is on you, Kurt.
Yep.
I'm not going to put it on the residents. You're the applicant, so the onus is on you. And to the residents who are here tonight, I would encourage you to have that application, and we'll be back in 2 weeks. The public hearing will remain open, and we'll hear what maybe the outcome of that is. And if there is no change, then we'll move forward, and maybe there is some change. I'm holding out hope for something good to happen for everybody. But if not, then we'll deal with it in 2 weeks from now. So.
Appreciate that.
Okay.
Appreciate that.
Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman, could I just ask that the applicant consent to the extension of the application for 60 days, just to make sure there's no timelines that we're running into?
Okay.
I consent to
To October 31st.
October 30, whatever.
You satisfied now?
Satisfied.
Okay, okay. Thanks, Kurt. We'll see
Okay.
you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you. So let's move on to item 8B, James Tenoni, II, special permit application for a proposed 980-square-foot detached two-car garage located in the right rear of the property located at 88 Robindale Drive, zoned R2022, SPU 686.
I guess I don't have an audience anymore.
You have an audience, James.
Well,
We're
thank
here.
you, I appreciate it.
You had to wait it out.
I'm James Tentoni, owner of 88 Robindale Drive, Plantsville, Connecticut. Asking for the SPU for the detached garage is a couple puzzle pieces in the works to turn my home into my life home with my wife and 3 kids. I need the extra space for myself because you know how wives are. They get the house, I get the garage, but she needs garage space for her car too, and I have 2 big trucks that I'd like to keep out of the weather. I like to tinker with stuff with my kids and teach them different things because I work on everything myself. I don't believe in paying somebody to do something that I can't physically do myself, so I pass that along to my 3 sons. The garage is gonna propose to be in the right rear corner of the home. The current garage would end up being demolished and pulled forward and shrunk from right to left, so a driveway can then go to the rear of my property to have access to that garage. Along with all that, I plan on extending the rear of the house, which has obviously nothing to do with this particular meeting, but basically renovating the whole home, turning it into our dream home. We've been looking at properties for the past 2 years, and we just can't beat this neighborhood and my neighbors, so this is where we want to stay, and I love the school system.
Okay. Any questions to the applicant? Yep,
So
go ahead, Steve.
the existing, we're looking at the print here. You're familiar with the print?
Yes.
You're showing the new structure in red. So you're saying that the driveway will go perpendicular to the home and straight to the house, to the garage?
So the current driveway
Through the
would.
location of the existing one?
Yes, so the current existing garage is gonna end up shrinking about 3 feet from right to left. It's gonna shrink into the house for the new portion of the addition. And then that will allow to have enough footage to fit my vehicle to the back of the property to get into the rear
So
garage.
that's not really shown on the plan, or is it shown?
I didn't show that part on the plan. This portion, I just put down just for this garage. With this process of my renovations and whatnot, the garage is gonna end up getting built first. And all construction for that garage would go on the left side of the house because there is no access to my rear property on the right-hand side of the house due to the current leaching fields and septic system. So that way there, all that can be avoided. And once that garage is built, basically, the entirety of the inside of my house is gonna go into that garage for storage, and then I'm basically gutting the whole house and redoing everything.
Well, I understand what you're saying.
Yep.
I think you sat through everything that happened here.
Yes.
And this plan is like really incomplete and really, I mean, it's your word. We don't I'm looking at this, I look at blueprints all the time, and I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, I actually brought some current floor plans. It's not on the plot plan, but I could show you kind of an idea of what I'm gonna be doing structurally with the house. I didn't include any of that because I guess I was under the assumption that it was directed just for the special use permit to have that extra square footage for the detached garage.
But if you're talking about an existing garage that's already included within square footage that's being removed,
Well,
it's all part of the same thing.
that same 20 by, I believe it's 20 of the current garage is basically getting pulled forward. And I'm gaining that 3 feet because the breezeway is gonna get knocked down, so.
I understand that you know what you're talking about, and
Yes.
you're familiar with your property, but I've never been there.
Okay.
And I have no idea what you're saying to me in relationship to this plan.
Okay, I understand.
So, Mr. Chairman, if
Yep.
I may, as not particular to this application, but particular to the property, I believe he will be going to zoning board of appeals to do some of the additions that he wants to do. So there is some security in the future that we will have another look, at least some board and certainly staff. It's completely up to you how you want to approach this particular application.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Caleb?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, and again, just like Commissioner Walowski was indicating, it's kind of difficult to see it through this rendering, or at least the plan that we have here. But I'll do my best to ask questions based on what we've got.
Sure.
So the existing garage is gonna come towards the house, and then you're gonna run the driveway, how are you gonna get back there, I guess is the
I
question.
brought some copies of prints. Do you want to see kind of what I'm?
I can share. Thanks.
So, Mr. Chairman, we also have an aerial photo that we can make part of the record if he wants to point out how he's going to access the back, if he wants to approach, and you allow him to point that out.
That should be way back here. So the plan that was submitted shows in red, it doesn't really help you because you don't know what I'm looking at.
I know what you're supposed.
At the very rear of the property that's abutting the Mount Sulington land,
Yes,
that's where the garage is going.
that's where the detached garage will go.
How do you get back there?
Currently, with nothing else done to my current house, it would be accessed from the left side of my house.
Okay.
When everything is said and done, after all the renovations, everything's gonna happen at the same time. I just needed these variances, and special use permits, before I continued with building permits and whatnot.
Okay, so from the south side of your house is where the new driveway will go to get back to the garage?
North side.
There won't be a driveway.
North?
I think it would help, Mr. Chairman, if you pointed out on the aerial, if everyone could take a look at that. On the map, there's the north arrow.
Mhm.
I believe he's going to the north. So where that 8.9 feet is, I think that's going to expand because he's knocking 3 feet.
Oh.
Correct. Correct, yes.
So when you're facing the house, it's to the right?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, that's where I got the confusion. I
Sorry
thought you said
about
left. All right. So that garage is going to move down, the new structure is going to be at the rear of the property. You're going to eventually expand your asphalt to go up that way?
Correct.
Okay. So that driveway is going to run right along the leading edge of your property line with
The Stevensons.
a cut above tree service?
Yes.
Okay. So here's my question. When you put that asphalt down, you're gonna have more impervious surface. So you're gonna have some runoff concerns. Also with the roof of that garage, how are you gonna prevent that runoff from going to your neighbor's property?
I'm still working on that. I was thinking along the lines of a French drain or something to deter water and get it into the ground.
You're right on, I mean,
Correct.
it's running the,
Yes.
running the property line, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And obviously, I don't want any ice in my driveway during the winter, trying to get out to work or whatnot. Again, this is all in the planning stages and
Yep.
figuring this out. But yeah, more
So-
along the line of gutter runoff, so that way all water will go directly into the ground.
The house that you have here now, I'm looking at it and I'm guessing that that garage and that breezeway have been additions.
At one point from previous
Before you?
owners, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So the house, and again, I'm making the guess, that those are additions. So we've added some impervious surface already by bringing that there and getting closer to the property line. So we're gonna essentially, well, more than double what's there right now. So those are some of the things, and as you're kind of, coming up with some ideas
Sure.
on how to answer this question, that's my big concern.
Okay.
The second question I have is, you said that you have two big trucks. Are those
Pickup
business trucks?
No, pickup truck, personal.
So
trucks.
it's personal use?
Personal use only.
Okey
Yeah,
dokey.
I do not operate any businesses out of my home.
Okay. Those are my questions. Thank you,
All
Mr.
right,
Chair.
thanks, Caleb. Anyone else? Any other questions? James, there's a couple of what I think are temporary structures that are out there right now
Far as,
for housing, I think, vehicles.
Hoop structures or anything like that?
like a carport.
Yeah.
One of them is for my father. He's moving out of his house due to a divorce, so I put one up for him to store stuff in the meantime of him moving. Those are gonna come down. And where
Okay.
the rare one is where I keep my lawnmower, just because it was cheaper to buy that than build a shed when I know I wanted to eventually build a garage.
And presumably with this garage, there's no longer a need for those structures to
Correct.
be on
Those
the
structures
property.
will
Would
be-
you be amenable if there was a stipulation tied to any approval that may or may not be approved here to remove those structures as part of that?
That's the first thing that's gonna come down, because my wife's on me as it is.
Okay. I'm in good company then, I guess. Any other questions? Anything else, James, that you wanna add?
Not that I could think of off the top of my head.
Steve, how do you feel about,
I'm not trying to be difficult, I
Yeah.
just want to see a good plan. I mean, we're being asked to, like, I'm just,
you're not
I
comfortable?
just think it's incomplete, and I mean, I'm happy to look at it, but, this is a nice drawing, and this is not, and this is just a picture. So, again, we're trying to be thorough here.
Jim? Yep, Jim?
Possibly in the record were my comments, and the responses from the applicant were a little unclear. Some of the items were brought up tonight as far as drainage and Zyro with expansion of the driveway. So if it's going to be any action this evening, I would recommend stipulating the engineering comments.
If I saw those. Okay, you want to, how do you feel about getting us a more comprehensive set of drawings over the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, whatever you need.
Okay,
Again,
because of you,
I
Steve?
only submitted these things because I thought that's all I needed
Yeah.
for that, and I realized that there's multiple pieces to my puzzle that I'm trying to put together so I can finance everything and do everything at once.
Do you hear what Commissioner Wolowski is talking about what he'd like to see?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Just sort of clean it up a little bit,
Yeah.
maybe, and,
No, I
You used the word-
completely
you just said
understand.
puzzle, you're putting the puzzle together in your head that you can see, and we can't see it.
Right,
So
and
that's
I only
all I
went,
wanna see is-
I only went
I
that
wanna see the
far,
puzzle with all the pieces there.
I only went that far with the architect because I didn't want to invest a ton of money into something
No,
that
no,
could possibly get
and we're
denied.
not asking
and,
you for that.
You know.
Just show us where everything's going to end up in red ink. and-
Okay, so I'll draw out a new plot plan for
That's
you
all you
guys.
need to do.
Okay,
Do it before and after.
sure. That's fine.
okay. Thanks, James. So I'm still going to open it up to members of the public who
That's
are here
fine.
tonight, just to see if anyone wants to testify on it, and, but we'll see you probably in 2 weeks. We'll keep the public hearing open so we receive that and look at it and ask any questions that might come up as well. So,
Okay.
All right? Is there anyone here who would like to testify for or against this application at this time? Okay. Sorry? Why don't you come up, just identify yourself, and we can make sure we get your comments on the record, so.
My name is Bill Sargent. I live over on 56 Ski View Drive. I was just concerned about him building a garage over there, but I was worried about the wetlands and stuff like that, like the ski area. I was here at the last meeting because the ski area wanted to, I don't know, appropriate some property over there, but it's because of the wetlands. Now, I don't know how big a garage he's going to build, but it's kind of funny that does your land bump to the ski area's property? Yeah, you black block, right? Now, all of a sudden, everybody wants that property. So I'm wondering where, what's happening.
Okay.
I mean, because the water table is as high as it is. Like some of the other guys that aren't here, like I said, my water table is high 10 feet. You got it on record from the last meeting that I was here. And the other guy isn't here now. He probably didn't get a letter. Now, he digs down 5 feet. Now, everybody wants to close in on that small property over there. Where's the water going to go? Goes into the pond down by, what the name of it? Where? Yeah, the pond down there, but we all got a problem with water now. It's the same thing. I mean, everybody seems to be, like I lived in my neighborhood there for 54 years. Now, all of a sudden, ski area bought, the old farmhouse there. And now this gentleman here, he wants to put a garage up, but are you going to fill in?
Well, sir,
property?
the questions get
Okay.
through the
All right.
commission.
Is the property going to be filled in at all? His property, is it going to be filled in?
I don't know, well, we will ask him that question.
You will ask him that?
Yeah,
Okay. That's what I'm concerned about, the water.
Okay.
That's my main concern.
okay.
Because, all right, thank you.
No, thank you for coming out. And I think that, Caleb, you brought up a question about water runoff as well. So, James, you want to, well, let's let everyone else testify. Is there anyone else who'd like to testify for or against this application at this time? Okay. James, why don't you come up and talk to us about if there's going to be any fill that's going to be, or you're proposing any fill on this?
There will be no fill. There will be removal of where the foundations and footings and the new basement would be for the house itself, but there will be no extra fill brought into my lot. It's currently a level lot.
It's a level lot?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So we have a request for a cleaner set of drawings. I think that there might be some questions that the engineering department has asked that haven't been adequately responded to. So I encourage you to do that over the next couple of weeks. And if you're okay, we'll we'll keep this public hearing open until then. Is that all right with you?
That's perfectly fine. Submit everything to the zoning office and copies and stuff like that.
Yeah, work through the two gentlemen down the end there.
Okay.
They can help you out with it, whatever you need.
Okay,
All right?
not a problem. Thank you for your
Okay.
time.
Thanks, James. See you in a couple weeks. Yep. Okay, item 8C, Scott Hebley, special permit application for a proposed second-story addition to an existing non-conforming residential structure, approximately 600 square feet, property located at 405 Prospect Street, Zone R 2025, SPU 687. It's my understanding that we're waiting for ZBA to approve this.
Correct. Yeah, a
So-
table's been requested.
So we'll look for a table on this one.
Correct.
Do we have anyone who can make a motion to table?
Could I make a motion to table?
Commissioner Coles with a motion to table. Is there a second?
Second.
Cat with a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on to the business part of our meeting, item 9A, Kurt Boyce, petition to change the zoning district boundary from an R 2025 to an I2, property located at 322 Lazy Lane. Zone change number 576, this is tabled from May 23. We have a public hearing that remains open on this. Can we get a table on this?
Make the motion.
Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Okay, we got Solka and Coles teaming up. Any discussion?
No.
Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 9B, James Tenoni II, special permit application for a proposed 980 square foot detached two-car garage located in the right rear of the property located at 88 Robindale Drive, R 2025, SPU 686. We have a public hearing open on this one as well. Can we get a motion to table?
Sure, make a motion, we table SPU 686.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Keard, you got to be quicker than that.
May I please? Don't be so polite.
I was going to make my first motion today.
There's plenty of time left, so just wait. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 9C, Scott Hebley, special permit application for a proposed second-story addition to an existing non-conforming residential structure approximately 600 square feet, property located at 405 Prospect Street, Zone R 2025, SPU 687. Commissioner Keard, do you have a motion to table
Mr.
this?
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to table SPU number 687.
We have a motion to table. Do we have a second?
Second.
Soka with a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion
Successful motion, very good.
Motion carries. Item 9D, site plan application for a proposed hotel with associated parking, property located at 95 John Winchell Crossing Zone in a business zone, SPR 1871. This was tabled from 8/23. I understand we have a request from the applicant to table this as well.
Correct, it's
Again,
still in
are
wetlands.
there any timelines that we're dealing with on this one, or deadlines that
I
we
think
need
you're
to be
still
with?
okay on this.
What's that?
I think you're still within the 65 on
We're
this
still
one.
good?
What were we waiting on? I'm sorry, I didn't hear Dave.
Wetlands Commission for D and E.
Oh.
Which is the next one.
Oh, okay.
So can we get a motion to table on this one as well?
Sure, make a motion, we table SPR 1871.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Keard with a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 9E, Current Properties floodplain filling application for proposed grading with a flood zone in association with proposed hotel parking zone B, FF 272. This is tabled from 8/23. We're looking for a table on this one again.
I'd like to make a motion to table FF 24274.
Commissioner Coles with a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Commissioner Keard with a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 9F, LePage Homes, Inc., Penny Lane subdivision, request for the first 90-day extension to file a Mylar property located at 347, 349, 389 Marion Avenue, S1337.1. Looking for action on this one?
The applicant's waiting for water board approval, so
Table.
table. Yep.
This is a table or, okay. Is it a table or can we approve the 90-day extension?
Yeah, the request to extend it additional days is appropriate because he's still waiting for water department.
Okay, so town engineer has weighed in, said it's appropriate to approve a 90-day Mylar extension on this one, or to file a Mylar extension on this one. Is there any discussion from members of the commission? Any questions? Seeing none, do we need a roll call on this? No, just a voice vote is fine? I know, but, okay, I'm just prepping ahead, Alex, sometimes the brain works like that, but, okay, do we have a motion to approve this?
So moved.
Commissioner Santiago with a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Give that one to Coles, I guess. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we got 9G, H, I, J. All these are releasing of bonds, so why don't we take up the first one? Public improvement bond, release a public improvement bond in totaling $37,000. Savio Meluza, property located at 36 Queen Street, SPR 1806. Jim, you want to?
It's ready for action. This is for the newly installed sidewalk along the frontage.
All right. A discussion from members? Do we have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve SPR 1806.
Second?
Second.
Commissioner Kier with a second. You're active tonight. Any further discussion?
Night of the alternates.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Don't be shy, Kat.
There you go.
Release of an erosion, item 9H, release of an erosion and sedimentation bond totaling $5,400. Don Florian, property located at 136 School Street, S1308. Mr. Grappone? It's ready?
I believe this property was part of a subdivision, and it was purchased under open space.
So it's ready?
There's 3 lots available. One has a house. The town bought one for open space. There's still one remaining, but the current owner doesn't want to develop it, so when a developer comes in, they'll replace this bond, but for now, we'll release it. There's no need for it now.
So we're good releasing this, all right. Any discussion?
Nope.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve S1308.
We have a motion, a second?
Second?
We're going to give that to you, Bob. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 9I, release of a bond in lieu of site plan compliance and totaling $36,000. Carsu Realty, property located at 44 Robert Porter Road, SPR 1842. Jim, is this ready?
It's ready. This work was for final paving of the parking lot and for off-site cleaning of, or expansion of the town's detention basin. So it's ready for action.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve SPR 1842.
Motion, a second?
Second.
Commissioner Woloski with a second? You got it on the record there. All those,
Mr. Chair, could I just have a question on this?
Caleb,
I
go
just don't
ahead.
understand, in lieu of site plan compliance, we're releasing a bond. Can you just kind of
So
help me?
basically, the applicant comes in with a site plan, and he requests a CO, but doesn't have all the items completed that the site plan shows. So what was, in this particular case, was for final paving of the parking lot and for expansion of the drainage system for the town detention basin. So they requested a temporary CO or a final CO in order to, depending on how much work is done in the building. So they want to have beneficial use of the building, but the site plan work is not completed. So that's the reason for a bond in lieu of site plan compliance,
But we're releasing the bond.
because the work is done.
The work is done.
Yeah, in lieu is after the fact. So they sign off on the site plan,
Okay.
and then in lieu of is finalized
Okay.
with this release.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
all set?
Yes, sir.
Okay, any further discussion on this? We have a motion and a second, right? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 9J, release of an erosion and sedimentation bond totaling $7,300. Carsu Realty, property located at 44 Robert Porter Road, SPR 1842. Jim, I assume this is ready for action
Yep,
as well?
Ready for action, the site's stable.
Okay. Any questions from members of the commission? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve SPR 1842.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
You didn't sound too certain there, but all right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There we go. Moving on to item number 10, administrative items. I'll just remind commission members that there were training opportunities that were sent out to everybody, I think earlier this week by town staff. So take a look at those, and if the opportunity or presents itself and you can attend, by all means, go ahead and do that. Anything else? Any other administrative items? Anyone?
Just, I don't know if it's an administrative item, but.
Dave, go.
Likely the new planner will be at the next meeting.
Oh, great.
Yeah, new planner will be here for the next meeting on the 19th, I think we,
Correct.
right? So you all will get to meet him. That should be good. Anything else?
Nope.
Item number 11, some new applications, Dave, you want to talk about either of those?
Yeah, another one, three-car in excess, across from AquaTurf. And Snow White Power Equipment wants to create another rear lot behind them, an industrial zone, but they need a variance first because they don't have the separation distance between rear lot accesses within that original subdivision.
Oh.
All right. Anything before we get a motion to adjourn? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Commissioner Clark with the most important motion of the night. Is there a second?
Second.
You got a couple there. Take your pick. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Go get a cat. Get on the record.